Hey guys, Stephen Cox here, and today we're going to be talking about muted plucking techniques. So if you like videos like these, please hit subscribe below and go to the description if you'd like to become a patron. So first of all, what is muted plucking? Well, instead of plucking normal, we are going to use something to dampen the strings. In this case, I'll use the back of my palm, just to give an example, to dampen the string while we pluck. So I'm plucking with my thumb and my palm is covering back here. It's just touching the string lightly. So it gives kind of a dampened sort of sound or a muted sound. So why would we want to do this? Well, if you have the metal strings, it'll make them sound a little bit more like the rubber strings, polyurethane strings, or a little bit more like an upright. And the reason for this is because it cuts the sustain of the string a little bit shorter, so it doesn't ring out quite as long. You can also use this to get more of the Motown sound because they had a very muted tone as they were playing as well. Here are the techniques compared to an open groove. So I'll start by playing a groove without muting, and then I'll play the different muting techniques over the same groove. So now that you've heard these three different techniques, the first one is palm muting, the second one is left hand muting, and the third one is using a sponge to mute. Let's talk about how to do these. So for palm muting, what we want to do is we want to take the back of our palm right here, and we want to set it just inside of the bridge, so inside of the pickup onto the strings. So that means we're literally making physical contact with the back of our hand on the string. If you do it close enough to the bridge, it will just dampen the string rather than completely stopping the sound from coming out, or stopping the pitch of the string from coming out. So here's an example. If I pluck with my thumb while my hand is touching, it sounds like that. If I move even closer to the bridge, it's a little less muted. So you can kind of practice just moving your hand around to see how muted you want it and to try different things out. So for me, it's probably about 1 centimeter within, or half an inch, something like that. And then you notice that your palm will have to mute whichever string you're playing. So if you can get it to stay straight, you can mute all 4 strings. But it makes it harder for you to pluck with the thumb. You may have to scoot your hand down accordingly, but just make sure that your palm is actually making contact with that string so that you are indeed muting it. I'm going to play through a little bit of it just so you get the idea of how this sounds. So let's try playing that together very slowly. If you need to, just look at the tab, pause the video with the tab to learn the part. And just remember, I'm using my thumb to pluck each note, and I'm muting the string with the back of my palm. So basically the back of my palm does not come up off the strings at any point. It's muting the entire time. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's what it sounds like palm muted. Like I said before, kind of gauge how much muting you want by practicing just scooting your hand over just to see where it sounds natural to you still, where it's not over muting the string. So the next style of muting is a little bit trickier to keep consistent on because we're moving the part of our hand that's muting the entire time we're playing. Basically what I'm doing is first I fret the note, just whatever note we're playing. So in this case it's the 3rd fret on the E string. And then I'm lightly setting a finger in front of it on the string. So this finger is not pushing down like you'd hold a note down. It's just resting very, very lightly on the string in front of the fret that we're playing. So if you go too far in front, you overmute it. But if you're just a little bit in front of the note, you'll get that nice muted sound. So the advantage to this is we can still pluck while we're doing that. So if we're staying on one note, this is probably the best muting technique out of the two, out of palm muting versus this left hand muting technique, because we can use our fingers to pluck so that we can get more speed. It's kind of hard to get your thumb to do that unless you go up and down with your thumb like a pick. Let's go back to the left hand muting. We're going to play the note, like I said, with an additional finger in front of the fret that we're playing, lightly touching the string. And if that's not muted enough, you can scoot it over just a little bit more this way. But don't push down harder, because if you push down harder, you might get some fret buzz. So this finger needs to touch the string lightly, and you can just experiment with that to see how far away from the other finger it needs to be. And usually I have them touching, so usually it doesn't need to be very far at all. So the hard part about this is when we play the other notes, we have to remember to put that finger in front of the other finger every single time. So it's a little bit tricky. It's not the easiest when you're moving around a lot, but it's good for if you're staying on one note for a while, or if you have a passage where you're playing each note several times before moving to the next one. But just for the challenge, let's play the groove here. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can see when you're moving a lot of notes, it gets a little bit tricky really fast. It's harder to stay consistent with your finger muting the same amount as you're moving around. So for that reason, I think it's just better to do if you're playing on a single note. So what else can we do to mute? Well, we can use a sponge. That way we're not having to constantly think about what we're doing to mute the string. We can just play as we normally do and let this do the work. So all I do here, it's kind of like the palm muting, only it's on the opposite side of the strings. I just slide it up under the strings. All right. And then if it gets too bunched up, I kind of fix that. It's got to be under all 4 strings. And then you push it all the way towards the bridge. So that's the goal. As much as you can towards the bridge. And this is a little bit too big, so it may be a little bit too muted. If you want it less muted, just cut a little bit of the sponge off here so that it's thinner. So, I mean, cut this way so that it's not sticking out from the bridge as far. But still has the height to touch all the strings. Okay, now we just play the groove like we would if we were playing it without muting at all, just plucking normally. I'm going to use 2 fingers, the index in the middle, and here's what it would sound like there. So if you've got your sponge, let's play that at a slower speed. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's definitely the easiest way to mute and to be able to play a fast passage like this. But as you can probably tell, there are kind of downsides to each one. With this one, it's that you literally have to take it and cut it to get it to be the right size to mute however you want to, whereas you can't adjust quite as easily with this method as you can with your palm, or as you can with just moving the other finger around. but it's very consistent because the sponge will stay in one place. Alright guys, that's it for today. I hope you've enjoyed learning about muting the strings while plucking in 3 different ways. So once again, if you like this video, please hit the thumbs up, subscribe, and consider becoming a patron. And I will see you guys this Thursday for a live stream because I'm doing the first Thursday of each month, and every other Tuesday I'm releasing a lesson. Alright, have a good week.